As you share, the person that's going to be impacted the most by your story is you. Hey everybody, it's Fan Time with Chuck and Deb, and today we're going to talk about your story. Okay, last time we were together, we talked about why we go and make disciples. And so this time we're going to talk about when you go and make disciples, what do you say? How do you introduce Jesus to people? And the very simple way to do that is by sharing your story. And we call this the 111. One story in 1 minute with one question at the end. And so Deb is going to walk you through the first part.
So we've been talking about the 411, and the first part was the why. And so today we're going to talk about the what, like Chuck said. Okay, so this is what you'll be drawing. There's a cross in the middle, an arrow down, then a line, then an arrow up, then a crown. So if you draw those elements, what this is the basic message of the gospel, the good news that we want to share with people. And I'll explain what these symbols mean. First off, the arrow down means God sent his son Jesus to the earth. And this line across, Jesus lived a perfect life. And the cross in the middle, Jesus died on a cross for all the things we've done wrong. Then the arrow up is Jesus rose from the dead. And then the crown on top is that Jesus is now the King of Kings.
Okay, what we want you to do now is just practice that piece. God sent his son to the earth. He lived a perfect life. He died on the cross for all the things that we've done wrong. He rose from the dead, and now he's the King of Kings. And he's coming back real soon. So just pause and practice that piece right now.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put a circle with 2 lines in it in front of that picture that you have. And this is going to be explaining our part in the story. And these lines are going to be 2 words that explain how we felt before we met Jesus, or what would describe your life before you made Jesus your king. So what would be a couple of words that you would use?
Yeah, mine would be lost and afraid.
Okay, mine would be frustrated and super guilty. Other people have used words like unloved, purposeless,
frustrated,
confused,
anxiety.
So anyway, go ahead and think of 2 words that describe your life before you met Jesus.
And we want you to pause the video once you do that, and then practice the 2 words and then the gospel, and begin it with, there was a time in my life when, and use your 2 words, and then go to the gospel. Go ahead and practice that.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, now that you've practiced the 2 words that describe your life before and the gospel, is we're going to add the second circle afterwards with 2 lines. And in these lines, we're going to use 2 words that would describe our lives after we surrendered and made Jesus our King. So if you can think of 2 words that describe your life after.
Mine are peace and courage.
Mine are forgiveness and freedom.
All right, go ahead and practice the whole thing. There was a time in my life, your first 2 words, the gospel, and then the 2 words after.
Okay, so now that you've practiced that, we're going to add the question. Remember, we call this the 111, one story in 1 minute with one question. So underneath the picture in your words, go ahead and write question. And then just copy this question verbatim. Have you received God's forgiveness and made Jesus your King? Have you received God's forgiveness and made Jesus your King?
Good. Now, what we want you to do is we want you to practice that whole thing from beginning to end. So it would start with, there's a time in my life when I was lost and afraid, and then I heard that God sent his son Jesus to the earth. He lived a perfect life. He died on a cross for all the things that I've done wrong. And then he rose from the dead, and now he's the King, and he's coming back real soon. And when I heard that message, I surrendered my life to him, and ever since that day, I've had peace and courage. How about you? Have you ever received God's forgiveness and made Jesus your King? So just practice that.
There was a time in my life where I was frustrated and felt super guilty, and then I heard the message about how God sent his son Jesus down to the earth. He lived a perfect life. He died on the cross for all the things I've done wrong. He rose again from the dead, and now he's the King of Kings. When I received that message and made Jesus my King, I felt forgiveness and a great sense of freedom. So my question for you is, have you received God's forgiveness and made Jesus your King?
So that's a simple way to share your story in about a minute. And what we want you to do is practice, 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 and then go share your story. The next time we get together, we're going to talk about who to share with. But here's the deal. As you share, the person that's going to be impacted the most by your story is you. Because every time you share your story, you remind yourself how much God loves you. All right, I hope this has been helpful. If it has, pass it on to your friends. Subscribe right here in the corner. And until next time, keep making disciples until there's no place left.
To not have to live a life of... Oh, I totally messed that up. I didn't even talk about my friend earlier. So, start over. There was a time in my life.
Hey everybody, it's Van time. And no. It's Van time with Chuck and Deb. Okay.